Welcome to the World Class Speaking podcast series. This is a place where you will learn how to present, persuade, and profit by improving your communication skills. Each episode in the series is a chapter from the book World Class Speaking in Action. And each chapter is written by a certified world class speaking coach. I'm your host, Matt Miller, and I've carefully crafted and summarized each chapter in the book. The most impactful way to tell a story is not to tell it, but to relive it. This is such an important distinction when it comes to storytelling that is critical to bring out the best in your stories. When stories are retold, it sounds more scripted, but when they're relived, it creates a whole new experience. This episode is going to show you how to bring your stories to life, especially the characters inside it. And this is episode 26, Bring Your Characters to Life, and it's by Valerie, who is a certified world-class speaking coach, as well as a business professional coach that creates signature stories for her clients. If you want your audience to think differently, reflect on their own life, and take action, your stories need to include charismatic characters that your audience can relate to, sympathize with, and rejoice with. Characters are the heart of your story, and a story well told can deliver your message and sell you on a product or a service. Here's an amazing quote by Dale Carnegie, and he said, "Your purpose is to make your audience see what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel what you felt. Relevant detail, couched in concrete, colorful language, is the best way to recreate the incident as it happened and to picture it for the audience." And again, that's by Dale Carnegie. And something else that's very important is the purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. And there's three different types of dialogue that moves your story forward. And that's dialogue between characters. Think about when you're giving a story, the dialogue between yourself and your cousin, or yourself and the mentor. And then there's also dialogue between you and your audience. And this is you just presenting to your audience. And then there's also self dialogue, the dialogue that you have with yourself, or the dialogue that the audience has with themselves. So those are three important distinctions when it comes to dialogue. There's multiple different types. It's always very important to give your characters the best lines in your story. For example, I like to say the story of how I was walking my dog and my neighbor lives 3 houses away from me. And I was walking the dog. We got up to the neighbor's house, and my aunt comes out. We start talking. And then she was talking about a decision she had to make. And I asked her, "What is the criteria that you use to decide a decision?" And then she said, "I think about all the recommendations from other people, but ultimately, I make my own decision." Then that stuck with me. And that was very important. And I use that to this day. But I positioned that phrase in a way that I gave the character in the story, who is my aunt, the key phrase or the key wisdom, because it makes her smart. It takes the spotlight off me as the presenter. It makes me less egotistical, and it makes the information more understood from the general public. So that's a good key to use, is give your characters the important lines in your story. Because when your message comes from a character other than you, your audience will listen. If you convey the message, you could come off as preachy or arrogant. But when you tell your audience what you learned from a character in your story, you become similar to your audience, not smarter or better. Another thing that's important is you want to relive your story and let your characters experience the emotion. You want to get the audience invested in what happens to the characters, and you want to tell your story as if it were happening now. You don't want to just tell the story, but you want to relive it. And it's important to bring your characters to life by letting them be seen, letting them be known, and letting them be heard. And you want to let the audience know what your characters look like. You want to develop your characters at the beginning of your story, and you want to add a bunch of sensory details. What are they thinking at the time? What are they feeling? What are they hearing? What are they smelling? And if you can paint that picture for the audience, what they're going to do is they're going to start thinking of somebody in their life that resembles that character. And then if they connect someone in their life to the character in your story, they're going to remember it more. And remember, when you're giving a story, have fun. Because when you're having fun, the audience is having fun. And when your audience is having fun, you are having fun. They work together in tandem. So overall, there's 3 ways to develop characters in your story. Let them be seen, let them be known, and let them be heard. And it's very important to bring your characters to life. Think about how you can relive a story and not just retelling it. Think about how you could use dialogue or the conversation between characters rather than narration, and give your characters the best lines. It takes the pressure off you and it puts you at the same level as your audience, and the wisdom comes from somebody else. And then describe your characters in details. Give them sensory details, what they're thinking, feeling, sensing, and this will help paint the picture in the audience's mind who and what the character is. And now that you know the importance of using dialogue in your speech, I encourage you to pick one of your stories and incorporate a few extra words of dialogue. And remember, always give your characters the best lines. And this wraps up this episode. And in the next one, you're going to learn how to sell a result by creating a compelling story. Stay tuned. That's all we've got for this episode on the World Class Speaking podcast series. Until next time, remember that becoming a great communicator is so important because it leads to greater impact, influence, and income. Thank you for listening and have a great day.